Hey everyone, and welcome to Paranormal Axetvities with your host, Ben Axe. This is the podcast where through personal experiences and through the experiences of others, we try to break down what's really going on out in the paranormal universe, whether it be ghost, whether it be Bigfoot, whether it be, I guess Bigfoot is a monster, but demons, whatever. And tonight's episode is kind of about witchcraft, I guess is the right way to put it. Witchcraft, Wicca, basically I want to say like the Earth's magic. I have a phenomenal guest who's going to share her experiences. And for those of you who don't know, I know every episode I try to do a paranormal activity of the week, which I kind of coined that term as my own personal experiences because I used to have them weekly. But I got to be honest with you guys, I haven't had a personal paranormal experience in a long time. It's been weeks. A few weeks ago, for those of you who haven't listened, I shared a pretty big story of a laptop falling with sage on top of it. Since then, I don't think I've had anything really happen. You know, there's been some bumps in the night and that kind of stuff, but nothing that I can't give credit to something else for. So yeah, no activity of the week this week. I know it's been a few weeks since I've done an episode, so you'd think in that time, but man, we've been saging a lot. I know I do a lot of saging around the house, and then Danae works from home, and she actually lights a lot of like white sage incense. So between doing those things, we haven't had anything happen here to my knowledge as of late. So no need to waste time with that. But this is something to note, I think, before I bring in my next guest here. She's going to talk about witchcraft and Wicca and kind of, reading books about how to use plants properly and that kind of stuff. And my wife recently, Danae, just got into that. This same time last week, that recent, she got into that, and I never even knew that kind of stuff existed, that you could plant certain plants for certain things and that you can kind of use the energy of your house in a positive ways using the earth, if that makes sense. Didn't know that even was really a thing until recently, and it just so happens that my guest tonight is a part of that, and she's going to share some of her experiences with that. And that alone, I think, it's a small world. It's, as my wife would put it, she used the word serendipitous, I think. I don't know English that well. But it's kind of it's a small world thing, and I can't wait to bring her on. So let's stop wasting time and just bring her on. So how are you doing tonight, ma'am?
I'm great. How are you?
I am doing well. Thank you so much again for taking the time to hang out with me tonight on Paranormal Activities.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. Happy to be here.
I'm excited. I know you are friends with former guest of the show and one of the guys from the Working Fans podcast, AJ Strangebrew. So it's kind of cool to have an AJ's name always thrown out there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. AJ, we're good friends. I would say we're buddies. Definitely, we talk about ghosts a lot.
That's awesome.
Which is fun.
Okay, absolutely. I know he kind of mentioned his stories on the show before, so I'm excited to hear about yours. So let's just get right into it. So what kind of experiences have you had?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say it's more on the paranormal side than I would say like the ghost experience side. A lot of my incidents happened about 2 years ago. It was in like a 4-month period. What's interesting is that all these things happened in that 4-month period. They stopped afterwards. And it was when I had started dabbling in, I guess, what you would call witchcraft, but I know that's a broad term. I was maybe looking into more Wicca and just doing basic research. But I guess we could start at the beginning. I was on vacation. It was very random. I was in the bathroom and also totally sober, mind you. Most of these are 100% sober. And I'm, using the restroom as people do. And all of a sudden it was like this voice in the breeze, which I know sounds so cliche, but it's crazy because I knew it wasn't a voice of mine. Like, you know how you make up voices for like other people in your head? You know what I mean? Like
Absolutely.
You kind of have other voices in your head. This was not it. This was outside of me 100%. And it was a little girl. and she said her name is my name. And that was it. And I kind of just brushed it off at the time. And just thought it was very weird. Because you can tell that it's not something that you make up. It happened outside. So, that was my first thing. I kind of brushed it off. Went back home. I was in school at the time, college, university, and it was probably maybe a week after that. And I had come home from class. I was sitting on the couch, scrolling down Instagram. Mind you, I don't know how explicit you are on this podcast at all. But
I cuss all the time. No problems.
Okay. I may have smoked a little bit of weed. I may have rolled a tiny joint for myself after class.
Sure.
And I had just lit it up, just starting to relax. And I scrolled by this video posted by National Geographic. It was like the last white rhino. And he was just kind of chilling, rubbing his nose on a log. And I remember as I'm watching this, instantly the temperature in the room changed. This was in like early spring, so it was maybe March. Okay. And it was all over my body, just got hot. I was like sweating. It was like temperate. It felt like it was 80 degrees. And then the smell in the room changed. It was like deep, dark, earthy, kind of smelled like poop a little bit, but like very charcoaly, very fertile. And yeah, it was very, very weird. It felt like I was there in that quick amount of time. And so, I'm looking at this rhino in front of me, and the first thing that hit me was fear, obviously. I could just feel it bolt through my body. And then the strangest thing, it's like that energy bounced out into like an outer force field, which I know sounds crazy. But when it did, it like slowed time down, and there was these splashes of colors like behind the rhino. It was like a dark green splash, like a watercolor splash. And in just judging by the way he was moving in slow motion, it was like I instantly knew that he was fine. He was harmless. Like, we didn't need to kill him. We could move on. And then, right after that, I was out of it. I was just back on my couch. And that definitely freaked me out a little bit.
I could see that. So you were like actually like by the rhino, like you were just like jumped to that experience?
I was there 100%. It was the weirdest thing ever. And I guess one little part of that too is I was seeing these like outlines of these trees on the horizon. They weren't there. It was like kind of transparent, like a shadow of a tree, but it was like showing it on the horizon.
So you could see detail.
Very bizarre. Very bizarre. Yeah.
That is, that's interesting. I've never heard of anything like that before from all the other guests and things I've looked up and stuff. That's really interesting.
Yeah, it was crazy. And I felt very crazy afterwards. And there's a few more things, but just because we're on this particular topic, I did go see therapists. A number of different things to tell me. And I don't know. I went to therapy afterwards, but I stopped going because I don't know, just everything that they were saying didn't fit, didn't feel right. I didn't want to take medication. I feel pretty normal as a person. What is normal though,
Absolutely. So quick question with that. So I know you mentioned that you started looking into, witchcraft and Wicca. Mm-hmm. So you may have mentioned it, I may have missed it, but how long, when you started doing that, did the first experience happen?
That's a great question. I would say maybe like a couple weeks, just because I had spent a good 8 months just doing research, like just looking at literature, just like scrolling through things, reading what other people had to say, just trying to comparing like different charts of like, I know we had talked a little bit earlier about plants and their different meanings and uses and crystals and just the basic stuff that I was seeing a lot of on social media. I was just kind of very curious about it. Just wanted to see if it was, real or not.
Absolutely.
And then I would say, I spent a good like 8 months just researching. And then my first practice, I guess, was a little ritual I did in my apartment. And it was very basic. I was, I guess, born and raised Roman Catholic. So I structured a lot of it like how I would a prayer in church. So it was kind of just like I was kind of winging it, but like going with the pillars that I knew were like a thing. And it was probably like a week, 2 weeks after that first one that the voice, I guess, happened. And then, everything, there's a couple more instances after this, but it all stopped when I stopped kind of setting up these little tables, having these little meditation things with these, what just seems like pieces of nature just in a particular direction.
Right. And that's kind of, it's funny you brought that up because I didn't really get into that at all until probably just a couple of weeks ago. And my wife just recently purchased a book similar to that. And she actually just planted a bunch of plants that you just mentioned that have like certain, let's say, responsibilities or certain uses for witchcraft ideals. And like she just on Monday, she was showing me all the what each plant does or is supposed to do. And so I didn't really know other people did that. So to actually talk to somebody in the same week that I've heard of it, it's pretty, it's a small world, I should say.
Yeah, that's funny. It's how the universe works. It's funny like that.
It is.
But it's very interesting looking into that stuff. I know I'm still definitely an amateur. But I mean, my first initial takeaway from when I was doing research into it is that it reminded me a lot of art school. So I went to art school, and their whole thing there is trying to develop your own sense of style and your own art, while also teaching you the basic pillars of art history and very technical strategies in drawing or painting per se. So that really struck me when I was looking into it. And also just building meaning is a huge thing that I learned. Like, just to continue with the art school analogy here, like for a painting, let's say, you do a painting of your childhood bed. Like, okay, it's a painting of a bed. Try it again, but use the bed frame as your canvas frame and use like your old bed sheet as the canvas and then paint on top of that. Then you have like some meaning there. You have some real like stuff going on. It's like, it actually is your bed. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I think that kind of translates into witchcraft and sort of into the, I don't know, I say witchcraft loosely because I know that's probably not the right word, but
I understand, like magic, like I understand.
Any spiritual practice, with the earth using things, which is, I believe, I forget the name of it, but I think that's considered low magic. And then high magic is just straight meditation and straight energy work. I've just recently started just learning about it because, I got very freaked out after a few other of those instances that I've taken a break from everything for a good 2 years. I've just recently kind of thought about getting back into it, but
I understand that completely. Back in 2014, I had a bunch of stuff happen paranormal wise. And after that, I stopped altogether, just like dealing with it. And then right around 2018, I got back into it. So completely understand. So what are some of those other experiences that you had?
Yeah, absolutely. So, let's see. Well, I was seeing this guy at the time. So there was like a couple weird instances of like me typing out a message and having this whole altar set up while I'm doing it. And then he'll respond to everything I said, but I never sent it. That happened like a couple times, which I thought was weird, but just coincidental. I pushed that to the side.
Sure.
But the it was a lot of overall little things, like just the way my mind was working felt different. It felt accelerated. But as far as experiences go, kind of one of the last ones that really just was the craziest thing I think I can ever. I don't know. When I tell people, I don't expect them to believe me
Oh, I
because I
understand.
don't even believe me. So it was just another night. I'd come home from class, sitting on the couch, and I'm kind of, talking to myself, talking to my cat. I have a cat. And the bed is across the room, and he, jumps on the bed, and I'm talking to him. I'm like, oh, you didn't want to come cuddle with me? Okay, I see how it is. Just, whatever. And then a couple minutes goes by, and he comes and hops up on the couch. And I'm like, oh, you heard what I said? And his jaw dropped, and he has a voice, and he said, I heard what you said. And I was shocked. I just kept repeating everything he said. Like, you heard what I said. And he said yes. And his jaw dropped with the yes. And I just said yes. He didn't say anything. And then I said, this shit is getting weird. And he hopped up in the window and hasn't said a thing since. And again, mind you, I am dead cold sober. And this is happening in my living room. It is the freakiest thing I think that's ever happened. Super cool, like super amazing stuff that you see in movies, but like, yeah, nothing has happened since then. That was the only thing that was. But
So that was your cat that was talking to you there.
yeah,
I heard that.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy. It's his jaw literally dropped with his words, and he had like sort of like an older man voice, kind of sounded a little agitated, to be honest with you. But yeah, it was super, super fucking weird.
That's
And then,
interesting. I'd never heard that before either, and I wonder if it's like obviously it is related to the witchcraft practices.
well, it all stopped after I stopped practicing. So him talking to me happened maybe a week or two after that other hallucination I told you about. This was all very concentrated. There was two other voices after that one. And it was just an older woman that had said a name of somebody I knew. And the other one was Tim. He was the third voice, my cat. And yeah, it's once I stopped, it all stopped. So I haven't had any voices, any hallucinations. He hasn't said a word, nothing since I haven't physically, like I said before, what seems like the simple practice of just putting pieces of nature on a table, you know what I mean, and meditating.
Absolutely. You're becoming one with nature at that point. So you're opening yourself up to everything it has to offer.
I mean, that's what it felt like, but is very, very scary. So at the same time, there was a gentleman that was friends with the guy I was seeing at the time, and this was sort of my last straw in those few months. We had gone out to a concert and a couple concerts, and it was very bizarre things that were happening, like people's eyes lighting up and shit, and I, whatever, I figured it was the lights on the stage, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like brushing this all off. But when we got back to his apartment, there was this music video that he was playing, and after like a minute or two, every time I shut my eyes, like there was these like gray pillars, these smoking gray pillars. I don't know, I sound fucking crazy right now.
Oh, you're fine. Not at all. The things.
But yeah, it was just so fucking weird. These gray pillars were like rising. Every time I blink my eyes, that's where we are. And it's like, I know we're all in the same place. And just literally after 2 blinks, my gut dropped to the floor and I stood up and I said, nope, not today. I'm not doing this. No, thank you. I packed up all my stuff. I walked myself out, called myself a lift, and was out. And after that, it was just, I don't know, it's weird vibes, I guess you could say, so much so that it freaked me out to the point where that's when I heard the older woman saying the name of that gentleman. And right after she said that, I called my parents and I was like, guys, I can't do this. I can't. And I went home and that's when I stopped. And that's, when the therapy started, all that. So it seems very Wicca or witchcraft, whatever you want to say, magic. It seems pretty harmful or harmless, I should say, on social media. And when you're reading about it from different books that explain things pretty clearly and poignantly, but the universe is a big, big monster. And it's full of beauty, but it can be very terrifying. And we can't have good without the bad. There needs to be evil in this world, as hard as that is to swallow. And you just have to be careful. I guess that's my final verdict is just be careful, know what you're doing. It's nothing to mess around with, but it can also be very beautiful, very empowering. And it's something I hope to get back into, but the hesitancy is there. Yep. Definitely.
That's absolutely correct. I agree with all of that. There's definitely good and there's definitely evil. And, you said that sounds crazy. Doesn't sound crazy to me at all.
Well, it's always good to hear that from people because this isn't always the type of conversation you have with every person you run into.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree with that. I mean, like the voices that you heard saying the name and that kind of stuff, do you know like who that could have been or would have been, or do you have any ideas?
Nope. I tried to think if the voice was familiar to me. It was not. You could just recognize the tonality of it. I mean, I could probably guess an age, like that came across clear, but it wasn't a voices that I had recognized or I'd heard before. No.
I wonder if like somehow, like when you unlocked those gifts with the witchcraft or magic or whatever you want to call it, if you just like opened yourself up to like maybe a guardian or another spirit who was trying to help that was close by, something along those lines, It's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that would be a nice thought.
I try to be positive when I break stuff down.
Right?
I really, it's one of those things. And one other question I have you said those pillars, what do you think those pillars were?
I have no idea, to be honest with you. It's okay. So I guess in the experience, we were rising, but it still felt like we were descending. It had a very ominous feel to it. Like I said, my gut dropped to the floor instantly. I was nervous. I was panicking. I felt like we were rising up these pillars to like the top, which is where there were these things that were going to talk to us. I don't know. That's just what I thought was going to happen in those first couple of seconds. So that's why I just stood up. I was like, nope, not today. I'm not going wherever you are taking me because I don't want to go there. Yeah, that's just what I remember. Gray. It was like 3 or 4 of them, and they were like close to me in vision, but like sort of in a semicircle, and just gray smoke. It was gray smoke.
Gotcha.
We were just rising. It was very, very odd.
That sounds odd. I would say that's a good call of snapping out of it and getting out of there. That's that's a good call.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was pretty obvious,
Right.
I was like, it was scary. It was scary.
That sounds pretty terrifying. I appreciate you sharing those stories with me. They were definitely unique. I think this is the 46th episode, and I've never had a talking cat, and that is awesome.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, I haven't really heard of many talking cats either. It's a pretty unique story.
It
so
is.
I'm very glad I got to share it with somebody who has such a welcoming, open platform that's as curious as I feel like I am. And I really appreciate what you're doing here. And it was my pleasure to be on and to share all this.
Oh, thank you very much. The pleasure is all mine. I love having all kinds of guests from all over the country, so I love to hear it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, all righty. Do you have any other stories to share with us?
I think that pretty much caps everything for now. Who knows what the future has to hold, but yeah, everything's been pretty average lately. So,
good deal.
Nothing, yeah,
I would say that definitely shows that there is something to the magic, witchcraft. I don't know what you want to call it, phenomena. I don't know if that's the right word either, but
yeah.
Well, again, thank you very much for taking the time to share your stories on this show, and I hope to talk to you again in the future if anything else comes up.
Yeah, we'll have to stay in touch for sure. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
And again, huge thanks to my guests tonight for taking the time to share all of your experiences. I really enjoyed that conversation. I can't wait to keep in touch and, share more of what we have going on. It sounds like we have a lot of similar things happening, so definitely an interesting conversation. But all right, guys, that's all I have for you. I hope you all enjoyed it. And be sure to check out Paranormal Axetvities on all of your favorite podcasting platforms, whether it be Spotify, whether it be Apple. We're pretty much available everywhere. And also be sure to check out the social medias, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, even though I'm terrible at those. I'm still there. And also be sure to check out WTBdotcom. We at The Buzz, we are a platform with several podcasts, several written articles, sports, lots of wrestling, paranormal activities. We have true crime, all kinds of stuff. So be sure to go to that website, check out all of our stuff again on social media, Facebook, Twitter. Good stuff. And again, hope you all enjoyed the show. And, I'd love to hear your input. I'd love to get ratings, likes, all of that good stuff. But more importantly, in my opinion, I really mean that, I want your opinions. I want you to talk about going forward. If you have any paranormal experiences of your own, I would love to have you on. Please contact me at paranormalaxepodcast@gmail.com. Again, that is paranormalaxepodcast@gmail.com. Or you can hit me up on Twitter, Facebook, wherever I am there. So again, that's all I have for you. I hope you all enjoyed this show, and let's just keep learning about the paranormal world together.